Aloha and welcome to the Papa Guy Podcast. This episode is the Papa Guy Podcast, all things Hawaii, with my good friend Scott Startsman, who lives on Oahu. I'm on the big island of Hawaii. It's a podcast where we go more in depth about our life and experiences here in Hawaii over the years. So, with that, I would like to bring in my good friend and guest, Scott Startsman.
How's it going,
Hey,
guy?
Scott. Hey, Scott. Good to see you again. I see that you've got one of your oil paintings in the background. Do you still do that?
I can't now. So, it's actually interesting. So, I've always been a very artistic person. And so, and this is kind of an interesting story where every year I try to do something different that's outside of my comfort zone to learn, to keep growing. And so,
Right.
towards the end of one year, I'm like, oh, you know what? I used to love doing painting and stuff as a kid. Maybe I should take like a painting class. And happened to walk in the next day to my office, the company office, and I looked down on this desk, and there was a book or a magazine for the Honolulu Academy of Arts classes, painting classes and stuff, and various different art classes. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of an interesting sign the universe was giving me. And I looked through it, and I didn't really like what was in there. And I happened to Google oil painting classes, and this one came up, this guy named George Gucci, who's a pretty well-known palette knife painter here in Hawaii, and he's on Oahu. I had no idea what a palette knife was, but it was palette knife, oil painting with a palette knife. And I'm like, oh, what the heck is this palette knife? And it's basically almost like a butter knife that you're painting with. So the paintings are very loose. They become very loose. You can't be very detail oriented. And for me,
Okay.
I'm neurotically detail oriented. So I'm like, that might be pretty good. So
You are that. I don't know how to arrive, but you definitely are detail oriented. Yeah.
Well, and I knew what would happen is if I got into brush painting, that I would get stuck never finishing a painting because I'd be looking for perfection. And so I'm like, this is interesting. Let me try this. And George and I have become very good friends. We still hang out. We have drinks. We make sure we get together. But I ended up taking his class, and I loved it. It was every Thursday for a month for 4 sessions. Basically, we would do a painting as a class, and I'd bring in wine and food and stuff, and we'd end up as a class eating, drinking, painting, and it was really enjoyable, and I loved it, and I got into it for about 2 or 3 years. But what ended up, I started my development company at that time, and when I did my first 2-home project from the ground up, that became my art. And because it took not only so much time and energy, but it's creation. It's the same thing as art. So real estate for me, especially on the development side, is creation, because you have these significant restrictions from land use, zoning, building code, height restrictions, and where they taper in, and floor area ratio, and you have to have a certain permeation rate on your lot for rainwater to soak in. And so you have to really figure out, okay, what can I do with this property, and how can I build these homes and create it to where it's still something appealing to the general public. And so I don't do it now, even though I really want to get back into it. I don't have the time because my art classes are actually my development projects.
Okay. So. Yeah. Well, okay. I saw the picture. For those of you watching, you can see it there behind. For those of you listening, it's a great oil or palette oil painting, I guess. So no, and I think creativity is one of those things that it's just so fulfilling if you can get started with it, right? I mean, I guess you could say the same about podcasting, whatever it might be, that there's some creative development there. One of my funny things that I've thought I'd love to do in the last part of my life would be to basically play the saxophone down on Kalakaua Avenue in the evening, open my little saxophone case, and have people tip me as they come by. Now, here's the story. When I was a kid, I used to do magic. I was totally into magic up till about the age of 15. And I even did like kids' birthday parties and stuff. And the name of it was Magic by Guy. And I had this black suitcase, and I'd open it up, and I'd do kids' birthday parties and things. And that was cool. So and of course you see street magicians, right? Well, I
Yep.
recently I Googled uh, uh, street musicians, and I see these guys in downtown wherever playing their saxophones, and saxophone's a great instrument, right? It's just so filled with energy and all kinds of moods. You can, you know, jazz to rock, whatever. The problem is, I've never fucking played the saxophone. I've never played a single note. So I would actually have to, just like you,
Yep.
I'd be starting not just with a blank canvas, but a saxophone where I'd be like filling the spittoon with spit for trying to get the decent sound out of it. But it's one of those things that I thought maybe that's one of the things I might want to try in the last few years of my life. It's just learning, even if it was like I learned how to play Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas or, something like that, right? Anyways, it's good.
Well,
So create.
yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that. So my story, the first day of painting class for me, when I went in there and George helped me buy all the paints and we have our mixing area and stuff. And so
No,
we literally
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the first day of your painting class, when you went in there and there were no nudes for you to paint, you were pissed off. Okay, continue. I'm just kidding.
That was actually my recruiting trip in my senior year in high school to UMass. And it was, and the class that they took me to for the recruiting portion was an art class where I go in and somebody is standing on a box, a gal standing on a box in a trench coat or whatever, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, let's start our class or whatever, and she gets completely naked, and me as a high school kid from the conservative South was like, whoa, what's going on here? I was like, wow, this is crazy. So that was my other art class.
Damn, Buford, there is a God. And his name is Naked. Yeah, sorry.
But the cold weather wouldn't prevented me from going to UMass. I was like, not doing that. I don't care what they put out in front of you.
Yeah, and you graduated from Wake Forest, right?
No. So I went to UNC Charlotte and then transferred to Appalachian State.
Okay. Now that you say that, I remember that. What is your connection of being such a Wake Forest fan?
So my dad and my brother went to Wake Forest. So when I grew up as a kid, it was ACC basketball, ACC football, mostly ACC basketball is what I was exposed to.
And Wake Forest has had some good years in football the last few years. You know,
they've done well.
Well, it's like me. I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, Michigan State University. My dad worked there. I ended up not going to Michigan State, which was fine. But we were in Spartan Stadium when I was freaking 7, 8 years old, and we would go very early out to the campus. We would watch the band practice, which is an amazing thing with a 100-person marching band and all those horns and drums, and you're right there. And they'd march to the stadium like a quarter of a mile, and we would walk right next, and we'd march along as kids. It was freaking awesome. There's just something about that university experience. But anyways, back.
You know, my grandfather played football and baseball for Clemson and was an IPTAY member for forever. And so I actually have pictures that I remember as a kid. They used to take me to Clemson football games in Death Valley, and I'd have orange overalls and the white shirt, and they'd put orange tiger paws, paint them on the side of my cheeks, and I had a Clemson hat. And I still remember to this day when it was around that national championship year. But my grandfather used to be able to take me on the field after games, and I remember getting a picture with Perry Tuttle sitting on his knees after a game trying to hold his helmet. And I remember thinking, my God, this helmet is so heavy. I had to hold it with two hands because of, being such a young kid. But I used to go to a lot of Clemson football games back in the day during the Danny Ford era, which was really, they were pretty high up there in the rankings during that time. It was wild experience, 72,000 people.
It's there's nothing like it. Although from a viewing standpoint and a fan standpoint, my son went to University of Oregon, so we've got Oregon football is definitely first and foremost now. I mean, I still watch all the state games, but you can watch every freaking game. My son got YouTube TV. We can see like any game we want. So even if I sat in a stadium, or no, I wasn't in a stadium. I was watching on my phone 4 different football games at the same time, a split 4 screen, right? That's what you can do nowadays. So the experience of being in the stadium, though, is unparalleled. It really
Yep.
is. Yeah, it's just nowadays the only ones that are full are the big college football games, right?
Yep.
So,
Do you remember living in Hawaii? I remember this, living in Hawaii when Monday Night Football was played on tape delay, when it wasn't live.
well,
So
if you remember it, I would remember it. The only way I wouldn't remember it is I am losing my memory a little bit. So, but no, I absolutely do. Yeah, it's weird. Everything's live now, which is great. Hey,
live,
people,
and you
just
have
out there,
endless options.
right? And just so you know, everybody, our college football Saturday starts at 8 a.m. I'm sorry, 6 a.m. What am I saying? Which is 12 noon back east when all the games start. So we basically watch from 6 a.m. till 7:30 at night when the West Coast games finish. I
Yep.
mean, it's a great day. We love college football day. So,
Yep.
anyhow, okay, so let's jump back to where we are now, Hawaii. Where is I was talking a little bit. I won't go into my swimming thing now, but maybe a little bit later. I have been working on becoming a better swimmer. But you, on the other hand, are a swimmer, and I want you to share that story about swimming certain sections starting from the Turtle Bay on the North
Oh,
Shore of
North
Oahu.
Shore.
Yeah, and what you guys actually did.
Yeah, I've got a couple of friends of mine who I used to run a workout group in Kapiolani Park over here, and so I became really good friends who have now moved off island, and we get together every year for, say, snowboarding trip or some kind of high activity, push the mental mind kind of trips every year. Snowboarding, we did like mountain biking, canyoneering one time in Zion. But so what we did while they were living here was 3 of us. I was recovering from shoulder surgery at the time, and we decided. And the one thing that felt really good during that rehab portion was swimming, and so we decided to swim the North Shore in a summer, and we started at Turtle Bay on the Kahuku side of Turtle Bay. So Turtle Bay sticks out on a peninsula, the hotel does, and right on the Kahuku side, it comes back in a little bit of a bay, and on the other side, it comes back into a big bay called Kavela Bay. And so we started on the Kahuku side, and we did 11 swims, 12 and a half miles, finished in Haleiwa, but we would go up there every Thursday. And so we started.
Okay, can I just real quick get back to that every Thursday? But first, we did 11 swims, 12 and a half miles. Each swim was not 12 and a half miles.
No.
How long was each? 11 swims of X amount, adding up
mile
to
a mile and a half each
mile
time.
and a half. Okay. Yeah. For me, it's like, yeah, I was lucky to swim 12 laps without dying. Anyways, okay, so continue.
Yeah, so we started out on that Kahuku side, and we head out for the first one, and we're going to go past Kavela Bay Point and whatnot. And so I got to a point where I got to this murky space, and we're a long ways out right off of the front where Turtle Bay Resort is, and there's nothing you could do. You got longer ways to go in than you do further. And the water got murky, and all of a sudden the hair on the back of my neck and the hair on my arms all stood up, and I stopped. And living in Hawaii, you know what that means, right? The tax collector, the man in the big gray suit is around somewhere.
Right.
And so I look around, and Mike, Chris, and I, we all separate out. Mike's the fastest. I'm medium in speed, and Chris is slower. But we separate out. So I pop up, I look. I'm looking around. I can't see anything. I can't see Mike. I can't see Chris. I look to shore. Do I go straight to shore? Okay, that's not really an option. I got a long ways to go there. It'd take me 20 minutes just to swim in. Okay, and nothing's changing. And I finally just said, there's nothing I can do here. I just got to keep going. And I did. And after about a minute or two, it finally went away.
dun 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 dun. And did you hear the voice of Quint going, "Sharks got black eyes.
I
Look
heard
right
my
through
own voice telling me I was an idiot.
yeah. No, I mean, and I think that's great. So what you did is you did a mile and a half, a swim, and then you go ashore and what you guys would have beer and kind of hang out a
Yeah,
little bit. And
yeah,
then
we
from the
start
next
about 4
you
p.m.
and then you go back to that spot that you just finished at
Yep.
and you'd pick up from there and go another section and then you'd come ashore and then eventually
Barbecue, drink, watch the
yeah.
sunset, and then come up the
It,
next Thursday, keep going.
that's so awesome. Well, and despite the murky water and that hair standing up on your neck thing, um, we both agree. I mean, the ocean is just a magical place to rejuvenate the body, the mind, everything. Yeah, it's we're in the middle of the Pacific, but my God, it's like going to the doctor. It's almost like I, I don't want to use the word drug, but it is. I mean,
Therapy.
literally, it's therapy. Yeah.
I mean,
So
I, I remember, hard days grinding at work and then go up there. And the minute we're done, first of all, you feel rejuvenated. Your day is washed, cleansed from you. And then we're sitting on the beach, barbecuing, drinking beers, watching the sunset down, down the North Shore. And you're out in nature at that point, right? And it was just,
yeah,
we drive home in the best mood, ready to hit the ground running the next day. I was
yeah.
and could not look for. We were looking forward to. Couldn't wait for the next Thursday to come up. It was amazing, and at the end we celebrated with the champagne and whatnot, because it was a heck of an accomplishment for us personally. That from a mental standpoint, that the craziest swim up there was actually not the Turtle Bay one, even though that moment during that Turtle Bay swim freaked me out. But it's when you get out there and your mind starts playing tricks on you. It starts, you can't see the bottom. All you see is blue. You're going along and you have that voice in the side of your head that starts saying stuff, and you mentally have to push things out. And the wildest one was going from 3 tables out across Waimea Bay, where during the winter, summertime, it's as flat as a lake. During the wintertime, you've got 50, 60 foot waves, 40, 50, 60 foot waves, and you're looking down, swimming over this part where there's boulders the size of VW bugs that are moving around during the wintertime when those waves are coming in, and you're just shaking your head. And then you get out in the middle and you cannot see anything. It's nothing but deep blue, and you're looking again to shore.
How far offshore were you? I mean, just out of curiosity.
I mean, in that depth, I'm not sure, because like when you go 3 tables and then you start going out across Waimea Bay, the bay goes way back in.
Right.
So you go from only, 50 yards offshore to 200 yards offshore or something.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. So well, yeah. I mean, to me, it's one thing about swimming that distance, and the other thing about swimming it in the ocean. When I was growing up, I mean, we fished a lot back in Michigan, and so we were in rowboats and we were around lakes a lot. But our time in the lake was not swimming any distances, right? But you were never worried about getting bit by a bluegill or a pike or a smallmouth bass, right? It was basically, if I fall out of the rowboat, we used to wear life jackets when we were kids, right? Because we didn't know how to swim. But I think I could swim. I'd love to swim open water Lake Michigan again, and go swim around a pier or something. But yeah, I'm not ready for the open water yet. I'm just getting to the point.
What's the visibility in Lake Michigan like?
Oh, it's really nice. Yeah. I mean, but it's the same thing.
You go out
yeah, but you go out a certain distance. It's the same, like you're in a boat out 200 yards off the shore. You can't see the bottom, but it's very clear, and obviously there's less boulders in Lake Michigan, but there are boulders there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because part of why I do like doing the open ocean swims is because of the clear blue visibility, just that pristine color of Hawaii water, and you can see everything. And there was one time I was swimming from Sunset to down past Pipeline, and I was swimming along, and I got freaked out because like a stingray was going underneath, and I saw
Oh,
the shadow of that, and I was like, "Whoa!" That one freaked me out. But it's interesting. The reason I bring that up for visibility, I went to Brazil for the World Cup in 2014, and my client of mine had a client that lived down there. He took us out on his boat, and we went up the coastline and anchored. And me, him, and one other guy jumped in the water. We were a good distance from the shore. We swam to where this like secluded beach where nobody was, and we were swimming in, and the visibility was not very good, and it was more of an emerald green color down in Brazil rather than here. It's just that turquoise, crystal clear
clear.
blue, which is
Yeah.
nice. Like I mentally, I think I would struggle if I did not have the visibility that you have here. Your mind just starts playing tricks on you, and you got to. That's a part of what the challenge of that swim is to mentally hone yourself in and go right and don't
Right.
stop,
Right.
don't quit, get to that end result.
Yeah. Well, and again, with out there with three buddies, even if you couldn't see them, I mean, it makes a difference, right? I would need like 10 buddies and three, tugboats by me if I was, at least
we
right
we
now.
had
But
we had one buddy that tried to join us one day in Waikiki when we swam across Waikiki, and he was a little fearful of the water, so he tied a boogie board to the side of him and was swimming, and he got about 7,500 yards out and was like, I quit. Got on the boogie board and swam back in the shore. He was like, nope, I'm done. I don't want to do
but
this.
but hey, good for him for
Giving it an
trying and
effort.
taking, but also taking the boogie board. I mean, that was
Yep.
his life raft essentially.
Yep.
And I know I have one of those. I haven't used it very much, maybe once or twice, but I bought one of those things you tie around your waist. It's got the bubble wrap, not the bubble wrap, but the blow up buoy thing
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
basically goes behind you. It's just air. So if you get tired, you can hold
Yep.
on to that. But unlike a boogie board, it wouldn't be very easy to swim into shore, but you could rest. I would never go that far offshore anyway. But
Yep.
anyways, that's the blessing of having the ocean around us. And as I get a little bit better, I'm going to start doing some swims at Hapuna Beach here on the west side, morning swims. Just
Perfect.
to yeah, we still go in the water, even though I swim at the pool to get better at it. We're in the ocean a lot with my son and his kids and my daughter-in-law. So uh,
Well, we'll have
anyway,
to go out because every time I come to the Big Island, I go and do a swim at Hopuna because it's
there we
perfect.
go.
You can get out in
It
10, 15 feet of water and go. And it's like I think is a half mile down. So if you go down and back, it's a mile.
It's
Something
probably
like that.
I have a Garmin watch that measures distance, and I'm pretty sure it has an open water on it as well.
Yep.
It'll measure your distance, so that helps a lot. And for me, just to have some kind of statistics, right? How many laps I swam, how many lengths, right? So, anyways, the other thing, for me over here is I like to play golf, and had a chance to play in Hilo last week with my brother at the Hilo Municipal Golf Course. Rained a little bit in the morning, but before we went out, it was a beautiful day. Most of my golf in Hilo has been good. I mean, I know sometimes you get rained out. That's just going to happen on the rainier side of the island. But anyway, it's a tough golf course. I think it's tougher than some of the resorts courses because they don't have any bunkers. The reason they don't is there's too much rain. It would be constantly filled with water. But all the greens are up, right? They're like a table that drops off at a slant. And so if you miss the green a little bit right or a little bit left, or even hit the edge of the green right or left, your ball's rolling down, and
Yep.
then you're ended up chipping. So that's where there's so many good golfers coming out of Hilo, because they learn how to chip. And putting is a different story. Wherever you are, flat greens, elevated greens, if you learn how to putt, that's one thing. But learning how to chip is where you make your money.
So let me ask you this question: have you noticed this before? Because not only has it happened to me and a bunch of other people, but I had a buddy from Australia, visiting, and he was a good golfer, and it was driving him nuts. But have you ever noticed with greens in Hawaii that no matter how you can have a completely flat green, and when you go to putt it, the ball moves towards the ocean? Have you ever noticed that?
I've noticed it from up above. Like if you're up the hill, like say Waikoloa Village, which is about 700 feet elevation, definitely you can. The green will look like it's breaking, and it should go to
Uphill.
uphill,
Yeah,
but it doesn't. It's either
it
stays
does.
straight or it goes towards the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think anytime you get to an elevated course, anyway, that's going to be the situation. But even more so here, right? I've actually taken my grandson out and been hitting a few golf balls with him. He plays soccer, taking after his father. Um, but he's gone out. We've hit some balls and we've hit some putts too. And I can say, okay, where's the ocean? And I said, yeah, ball's gonna roll a lot faster towards the ocean, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we tried downhill putts, uphill putts. It's fun,
Yeah.
So, but those are. Hey, I tell you what we do here in Hawaii. Those of us that live and work here is we do what everybody comes thousands of miles to do. We're in the water. We play golf. We hike. Uh, and Saturdays we watch football during football season. Sunday
Yeah.
we watch pro. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
even just sitting out on the lanai, it doesn't matter the time of the year. First of all, we don't have the mosquito issues until you get into really lush areas. Then you got to worry about them some. But on the drier areas, like where I am, I'm right by Diamond Head. There's not a single night that the weather does not feel perfect throughout the year to sit on the lanai comfortably, relax, have dinner, drinks, whatever, enjoy friendship, and enjoy the weather. It's a completely comfortable temperature. So that outdoors component here in Hawaii is amazing.
it is. Well, and it is everywhere, but of course the seasons will put a damper on certain things.
Yeah.
Certainly back east and up north, back east, but and out here we get our share of weather. Usually for us on the west side, it's wind. Yeah, trade winds that pick up and you're going 25, 30 miles an hour. But anyways, sometimes you have to golf in that, but
That's when they call it goof.
well, they do. And there are some days where you look outside and say, I live here. I don't need to go out and play in that, and we don't. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways,
Well, at
so
least we don't have the
yeah.
humidity that I grew up with in North Carolina. Like summer times, I went back. I went back home to go visit in North Carolina, and I went to come out of I was in a mall area, and I went to come out of the double doors, and I had my shades on. I just put them down, and the minute the doors opened, they fogged up, and it was just so much humidity in the air. I don't have that out here. It's humid, but it's not nearly what it was in the South growing up.
Well, yeah, and the north even, because it's like the air, you can almost grab it and put it in a bottle. It's so thick. People come out here and they say, "Oh, it's really humid," and I think, no, you just got off the plane, and it feels warm to you, but no, you don't have that sweating as you stand still humidity.
Yeah.
But occasionally in Hilo, you'll get it too, because it'll pour rain, and then it'll clear up and it'll just be hot and humid because it is more moist, the ground saturated, whatnot. But anyway,
windward sides of the islands where they get more rain and moisture.
Yeah. So your plan, I mean, even though you're on Oahu, which is about 260 miles by plane away from our island, the Big Island, your plan is to get back here sometime, right? Build your own home.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, it's funny because when I moved to Hawaii, I almost did things in reverse. I lived in Puako at my family's condo and on the fourth floor with amazing views of Maui, and there were no houses across the street in Puako at the time. So I had full ocean views and Kohala Mountain views. And I was living very easily, and I bartended, right? So I either went in at 2 p.m. or I went in at 5 p.m. So I had half a day more or less to kind of do what I wanted to explore, have fun. So I almost look at that. I was like, man, I think I did retirement first, right? And then I moved to Oahu for here's the economic diversity, the go, go, go. I get the best of all worlds. I can work hard and play hard over here. And now that I'm 48, I'm like, all right, we're on top of each other over here on Oahu, which is not bad, but I'm starting to want a little more of that space and quiet time, be a little connected closer to nature than, because I'm right here in the urban core. So yeah, I'd love to have a place back over there.
Well, and I had the city life experience. Obviously, I spent some time on Oahu, but weekends here and there and whatnot. But I had the city life in Tokyo back in the mid to late '80s, and I loved it. Now there was no ocean to jump in or anything like that, but never drove a car for 5 years. Took the trains, walked a lot. You wonder why you don't see that many people that are overweight in Japan, even now. They walk to the train, they get on the train, they get up there, they get off, they walk another mile to wherever they're going. Yeah, they're constantly on the move. And I enjoy that. And even when I go to Oahu, I like walking down Kalakaua Avenue and some of those places, and just amazing as city life. But after 2 or 3 days, as our plane is landing back on the Big Island, we're like, yeah, good to be home.
Yeah,
so
back to peace and quiet.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, so when you build your home on the Big Island, and regionally or at least geographically, people may not understand this, and maybe I can interject and explain a little bit, but where would you want to build your house?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. No, it wouldn't be Puko. So I actually want space. I'd like to have like 1 to 3 acres somewhere in there, which would and have the elbow room, have the yard space, landscape.
Right.
I've noticed through my developments, I noticed this in my developments. You can have, everybody wants that, oh, I want the ocean view, or I want to be ocean front, right? That's very spectacular. There's a soothingness to it. And I do agree. But I've also done projects where I've gone in heavy with the landscaping, vegetation, tropical landscaping. And there's a soothingness to that as well from nature, a calmingness that you can do from a yard space standpoint. And so I want the space because I want to add in some of the landscaping component to give me that connection to nature. I do want the view, but the hard part that I'm trying to figure out is both myself and my girlfriend have a significant connection to the ocean. And everything that I've been looking at over there, like Kohala Ranch, Kohala Estates, some of those areas, which were pretty ideal because you can still get me close to Hapuna and be able to get in the ocean and whatnot. We lost the connectivity to the ocean. It just looks like a painting on the wall. And I'm
right,
like,
you have the view, but
you got the view, but you can't feel it moving. And my girlfriend, I had mentioned, has done the Molokai to Oahu race many times. She was a paddler, and has a significant connectivity to the ocean. We want to be able to see that ocean moving, and Big Island may not be an option for us. We have to say, okay, we're sacrificing that. We'll take the view, but we won't have that real connectivity of seeing the movement of the ocean and the currents, where you can see the currents and you can see some of the waves coming in and hear it. That's what we'd really like to have, but it may not be realistic.
So when you're in Oahu and you're, say, in your condo, high-rise condo, and you're looking out and you see the traffic going back and forth, and that gives the illusion that the ocean is moving. Is that?
Yeah. And just open your window, you get the constant noise.
It sounds like waves, right? But that's the thing is about here is you're not that far away, right? So you have to make choices like, hey, I'm 15 minutes from Hapuna Beach, or 20 minutes, and however many other beaches, so you can get down there and connect.
Yeah.
But Kohala Ranch is a pretty special place, and it's also, the elevation changes are great, so you're going to have good views from anywhere if you decide to build real estate there.
You do that. I mean, the interesting thing for me was realizing Kohala Ranch has a 90-page design guidelines. And I'm like, oh, dear God. And I started reading through this, and it's basically someone standing over your shoulder telling you, you have to submit your plans and things like this. And it's very detailed. Certain number of plants at a certain height, certain number of plants at a different height, certain number of plants at a taller height, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, type of style of home. And it was so much that I'm like, I don't know that I really want to be in this. But so then you go next door to Kohala Estates, and there are no rules. So the rules are good in the sense that they can protect your values, and you don't have the loud neighbor with a million junk cars next to you in Kohala Ranch. You want to go to Kohala Estates, you could have that because there are no rules. And I'm sitting there going, is there something kind of in between here where we're not on one extreme or the other? So it's been interesting going through all this, because I'm actually just like any other consumer at this point, having to prioritize what's important to me and what am I willing to live with and what am I not willing to live with, and trying to figure it out. And so I don't know that Big Island actually checks the boxes that I need. I may have to go somewhere else or go some other part of the island, Upper Kona, where you get the elevation and the views, right? Waimea.
Yeah. East side Waimea. That's where you want.
Yeah.
Where where you used to be able to buy a house for $400,000, and you can't buy a house for less than $1.2 million anymore. Even in the green side of Waimea, occasionally something will come up on the market that'll be not so expensive, but it's usually one of those single wall construction houses, So what do they used to call them? 1056s, 1,056 square feet. Yeah, I've got a 1056. Everybody built the same house. The only way you could tell was, the number on the house, and they painted a different color, So
yeah. We used to call those over here. There was the kind of like HPM kit homes. They were Hicks homes is what they were.
Oh yeah.
Over here.
Yeah. They use both the 1056 being the square footage or the Hicks. Yeah. I've heard both phrases, but the thing is, when you get to Waimea, and again, we're talking about more on the north side of the island, and that was the road to take you to the east side through Waimea and along the Hamakua coast out to, towns of Honoka'a, Pauilo, et cetera, past the Kaka Falls, and then into Hilo. That whole Hamakua coast, that was the sugarcane industry. So you have all these camps that are still there with old plantation style homes where people lived and worked the sugarcane fields, and they have such charm. And some of those homes have been worked on. Some of them have not. Even in Hilo, you drive in downtown Hilo. Wow, look at that house, totally renovated. And the next three houses look like, not only that they're 200 years old, but they're 200 years of not being taken care of, right? So you have a real mix. Yeah, but that's also part of the charm here. And then you go to the town of Hilo, and I just call it the Outdoor Museum. Downtown Hilo is something else, but Hilo's got some great restaurants. I want to tell people that if you come to the Big Island, you'll go to the Hilo side to get to the Volcano National Park. But man, there are some great restaurants. Hilo Bay Cafe, Jackie Ray's. There's a new fish and chips place in the brewery, and there's pineapples. Just lots of good restaurants and a bigger population in Hilo too. So
yeah, they've done a good job over the last decade there of kind of bringing it into the, restaurant wise, stepping it into the new era of experiences and things. But yet you still, like you said, the Outdoor Museum, you've got some amazingly old architecture that has not changed in a long time, which is really neat to see. I mean, preserving that is amazing. Stepping into that town is like stepping back into time. But now you've got some nice new restaurants to complement the architectural side.
No, I love telling people when they're saying, "Oh, we're going to go over to Volcano," I say, "Hey, when you go through here, you try this restaurant or that restaurant, or we want to eat some." Because people, all right, here's a question. This is a good one. All right, people ask, "Hey, what is a place for good local food?" And usually, and I'll let you take over from here, but I answer it in this way. It's like, well, there's like the traditional Hawaiian food that you may see a little bit of, say, at a luau. We've got kalua pork and you've got poi and stuff. But then there's modern local food, which usually has 2 scoops of rice and some kind of
Like
chicken,
plate
barbecue, whatever.
lunch.
Plate lunch is kind of what it gets called now. So it's like, and I understand what people want, but there really is a difference. It's just like modern Hawaiian music, you know, which still has a Hawaiian sound to it. And yet they have the diversity of instruments as opposed to simply like slack guitar or ukulele.
So
Anyways,
when you say modern Hawaiian music, what are you referencing?
oh, I'm referencing like Cecilia and Capono,
Okay, yeah. So by
Kalapana.
modern, you mean the 70s on?
Oh yeah, not
Yeah,
I mean, let's face it, people. The original Hawaii Five O theme song is not Hawaiian music, dun, 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 right?
yeah,
But but you think of hula dancing and the original music with that. Think of a lot of slack key guitar. I mean, it's beautiful. It really is. But
hmm
there is a sound which is modern Hawaiian that feels like the song could have been written years ago because it still has either it's a folk song about Hawaii or someplace where somebody grew up, and yet the music, the way they play it, it sounds like it sounds like Hawaii. Yeah.
yeah.
So or it's about Hawaii or an area of Hawaii that makes it feel uh,
That's one of the big attractions for me to living and staying in Hawaii is the music. It's I get in whenever I can squeeze it in. I get in my truck, the development company's truck, turn on the radio to Hawaiian 105 KINE. I drive out in the morning, early morning, take the road out by Hawaii Kai. I drive along the coastline. You can typically see Molokai out on the right. And I pull up over the hill. Rabbit Island is right there. I go body surfing down at Makapu'u. But I'm listening to Hawaiian music all the way out there because not only the drive and seeing the nature and coming along that coastline, but taking in the local music, it just puts you in a mood. And part of that, the music for me is very much about not only the lifestyle, but there's a components of almost kindness and the aloha spirit
oh
in a
oh
sense. And
absolutely
and
yeah.
and some of the songs about food. And so
Yeah,
yeah, I
the
mean,
fish and the fish and the
fish and
poi,
pork,
right?
fucking
Yeah,
big boy. Yep.
yeah. Well, and it's they insert the culture, including geographically certain places like surf. What is it? Surf YPO all day, not YPO. Surf YPO all day long, something like that. Whatever they in surfing songs.
Yeah.
Um, Getting together with family and eating and just fishing for kahoku in the mountain streams,
Yeah. Hey,
whatever it
Mr.
is.
Polbender. Right.
Yeah, well,
He used to
yeah,
play in the seafood bar when we were there. The guy
yeah,
from that
yeah.
group. So,
No, and it is though. I mean, we can talk all we want, but they do they incorporate the geography, the food, the connection, not just with the nature and the beauty of Hawaii, but also the people, the
yep.
family, the friends. It's just and so and of course with the modern stuff, I just feel like they have a much more variety. They've figured out how to take, you know, guitars and lead guitar, and for some reason, just I think it's because of what they're singing about that just makes it feel Hawaiian. Anyways,
Yep.
there's so much good music out there. We could talk on and on about that, but go to our show links and hear Scott and Guy singing a version of.
Oh
No, don't
no.
do that. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So besides music, right? And obviously we talked a little bit I mean, these are topics that we could sit here and talk just about Hawaiian music, but we'd have to interject like, oh, and there's this song and there's that song. Then I'd have to get an ASCAP license or get sued, but anyways, yeah. Well, shoots, it sounds like you're doing good, Scott, and I think that's a good conversation for the state of Hawaii. I know that there is a big contrast, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you listening, between the Big Island and Oahu. The Big Island is the biggest island, and I will tell you this, just for trivia, the name of the Big Island is Hawaii. It holds the same name as the state. Scott lives on the island of Oahu, which a lot of people call Honolulu, because that's the big city there. Oh, yeah, I'm going to Honolulu. Well, which island is that? Well, Honolulu. No, it's Oahu, right? So you have Hawaii, Oahu, Hawaii, and then north of us is Maui, and then Oahu, and then north of that is Kauai, the four main islands. So, anyways.
Yeah, the difficulty over here. So Honolulu is the county. Oahu is the island. Honolulu is the county. Honolulu is the city. Then when you start looking at mailing addresses, like Hawaii Kai is Hawaii Kai, but if you live in Hawaii Kai, your mailing address is still Honolulu, right? And then you break it down into the our MLS, the real estate MLS for us, and Honolulu is more the metro area, so it's like it can be a bit confusing sometimes.
So it is Honolulu County.
It is Honolulu County. The whole island is Honolulu County.
Now, is Maui County? It is. Mm-hmm. And Kauai is Kauai.
But does Maui County include Lanai?
Well, yeah. I'm thinking of Kauai. Yeah. Lanai and Molokai are included. But on our island, it's Hawaii County. It's the name of the island. So I guess they're trying to create a little confusion. But anyways, my buddy was here from Michigan in February, and we had such a great time. He was here with his wife and a friend of theirs. We went to dinner at Maunalani at this restaurant called Napua, which is right by an amazing little beach there, Makaiva Bay. And we played golf at Maunalani, and he's been out here about 8 times. He just loves it here. His wife does too. And it had been a few years since they'd been here, but he's been here about 8 times. And I so love spending time with people here, regardless of whether they've been here or not, but just introducing them to the island or reintroducing them to the island. So anyways, that's part of what you have to do here is play tour guide, which is fun. But I tell you what, when we were at dinner at Napua, my friend, he's so like, waitress walks up and he's like, "Hey, my name's Bruce Chapman. I'm from Michigan. Glad to be here. What's your name?" He's like, just boom. It's like, and at the end of the night, one of us had left something on the table, a phone or something, and the guy comes running out. Says, "Oh, there's like 8 or 9 of us, right?" And he goes, "Oh, you forgot this." And he says, "You know what? That's the most fun table I've had in my entire time working here." Right? It's a nice, intimate restaurant, but that's just what he does. Gets out of his car at the Hilton, walks up to the bellman. "Hey, I'm Bruce Chapman. I'm from Michigan." It's like he's like, here's, he hands him $20 or something, right? For nothing, and every time I go up there, he says, "Hey, have you seen Mr. Chapman today or Bruce Chapman?" Yeah, he was done. So he knows it, and he's just making friends. He's not doing it to get extra service or anything. He just loves doing that. He does the same thing in Michigan, right? And some places will eventually say, "I'm sorry, Bruce, I don't want you coming back here anymore." But for the most part, he makes friends, and it's great. It's so much fun to have him out here. So anyways, he loves the Big Island, but they went to Maui for a week too. And that was, still not, maybe only 4 or 5 months after the Maui fire tragedy, the Lahaina, but they were there and they had a good time. So he played Kapalua Plantation course while he was there. Yeah.
It's a nice course.
He watches it every year when they play the Kapalua, all the winners from the previous year on the PGA Tour show up there. So he watches it on TV from Michigan. So he finally had a chance to play it.
And they do that at the right time of the year, right during the winter when everybody else is freezing cold in Michigan. and they get to see that on their TV every year.
Oh,
Oh, look how beautiful that weather looks. Same
and
thing used to be with the Pro Bowl, right? And was it the Hawaii Bowl, Aloha Bowl? Before they were all, Christmas Eve. I remember watching. What was
whatever
the?
yeah. Well,
I
they
think
still
it was the
call it.
Aloha Bowl.
Yeah, they used to call it the Aloha Bowl. I think it's the
I think
Hawaii
it's the
Bowl
Hawaii
now,
Bowl now.
even though
But
it's
I
always on
remember,
Oahu.
yeah, I used to remember always watching that on Christmas Eve, and you'd have this amazing weather, and here you were in the middle of winter on the mainland somewhere.
Right. No, it's great marketing. And the week after that, they have the Sony Open, and then right at the end of the month on the Big Island, you have the MasterCard Senior Tour for all the winners from the previous year, and they've had that for 20 plus years now.
Yep.
So we get a chance to see some golf if we want to. The problem with my golf and golf here in Hawaii is when my son was probably 12 or I would say 10 or 12, somewhere around that age, we were on Oahu with a Japanese friend of ours. And, we were staying at the Hyatt, which is a great hotel downtown. We get into, this is probably, so he was 12, so probably 90, 95, 96, something like that. And the Sony Open was going on. We get in the elevator at the Hyatt. Peter Jacobson, the golfer, gets in the elevator with us. Of course, I knew him right away. I said, "Hey, how you doing, man?" Just, he was cool as hell. I said, "How'd you do today?" He goes, "Man, I had a great day. I shot a 66. I'm like, "That's awesome," And my son's kind of looking at me. I said, "Andre, this is Peter Jacobson. He's a professional golfer." And he reaches out and shakes my son, and just as nice as could be, right? And so, unfortunately, for the rest of my life, even till now, I would go golfing after that, and I'd come home and like, "Oh, what'd you do?" "Oh, I shot an 87." And he'd go, "Well, Peter Jacobson shot a 66." So that was my measure for the rest of my freaking life for golf as my son. Now my son, who's 38, and we love to play golf together, he's playing a lot more golf these days. I remind him of that. He always laughs. I said, "Yeah, how does it feel now?" "Yeah, to shoot an 89 or a 95."
Yep.
When Peter Jacobson shot a 66. So we run into celebrities all the time. I'm sure you do too. So
I would not over here. They used to come into the bar all the time, right? I mean, were you there the night that when I was bartending and Neil Young came in?
I was there every night you were bartending.
Were you
I don't remember. I don't remember every night, but I was there, or so I'm told.
Well, there was the night that Neil Young used to live in Puako, right? And so I used to see him at the Puako General Store, and but he used to love coming into the seafood bar. And I was working the well down at the far end, and my girlfriend was sitting in front of me, and Neil Young's brother Schmitty was playing music there that night. I don't know if you know who that is or remember him, or if he's still around. And Neil Young came in with his wife and sat right in front of where he was playing, which is down my end of the bar, just to watch him play and eat and drink, whatnot. And so I was jokingly going into the back into the kitchen. I'm like, if you've ever seen Neil Young play, he does this funny foot pump when he plays. And so I went in the back and I was like, "Hey, he's getting his foot warmed up," jokingly, joking around. And I come back out and he's standing up there with the guitar strap over and his guitar in his hand. Brother Schmitty had taken a break. And I'm like, holy mackerel, he's, getting ready to play. And everybody poured in from the outside and he started playing like Harvest Moon, and everyone's going nuts. And my girlfriend looks at me and he's scraggly looking, right? And she looks at me and sees everybody's going crazy. She's like, "Who is this?" And I said, "Right, it's Neil Young." She goes, "Who the heck's Neil Young?" I go, "Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young." She's like, "I have no idea." So he played like 3 or 4 songs. Coop, I don't know if you remember Coop. He ended up buying Old Blue, the truck that I had, from me. He got up there and played harmonica with him.
Oh shit! How good is that?
Yeah, so cool experience. Well, the next day, my girlfriend went into work at the North Hawaii Community Hospital, and she was telling people, Neil Diamond was playing at the seafood bar last night. She had no idea who it was.
Well, and here's the thing is, even to this day, I mean, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, even younger people have listened to their music, right? Because of streaming and all the much more access to music. But Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, that goes to a
Way
kind
back.
of a different time, way back,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I could understand why somebody wouldn't know Neil Young, but you say Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Oh yeah, I know them. Well, Young used to be with them, right? So
Yep.
no,
Well,
that's a
so
great story.
for the millennial party, or for the change into the millennial from 1999 to 2000, they actually had a Neil Young at his property over there had a party with all of them together on his property that night. Private, right? It wasn't, but they were.
Right.
Naren said they were just sitting around jamming and had a good party together. But it was Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young at his property on that for that millennial party in Puako.
God, how would
That would
that
have
have
been
been?
a cool
Yeah.
experience to go. I know, and Naren got invited, so he went, and so then I was chatting with him about it the next day. He's like, "Oh yeah, you totally could have come." I'm like, you should have told me. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall on that." So
Yeah. Well, and that was the changes of to 2000, right?
yeah,
Right.
when we thought all
And he,
computers were going to
right.
crash, and
And that's what we were doing. We were at the hotel. Everybody's going, "Oh, everything's going to crash. Y2K, Y2K." I was like, get
yeah.
some KY and F FY2K. And after nothing happened, everybody's like, geez, maybe that's where all this conspiracy bullshit started. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, I'm glad they did something fun on New Year's. I would have liked.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, as we move forward, let's share some more of our celebrity stories, because I have a few too that were really pretty cool. A lot of celebrities come through. And because even though it's a big island, I like to call it the small big island, because you're always running into people you know. I ran into Robert Redford in a coffee shop in Waimea
Yep.
early in the morning. I was the only one sitting in there. He walks in to get a cup. I look up. And it's like, well, that's Robert Redford. And he looked over. I nodded. I said, "Hey, how you doing, man?" And he goes, "Good, good." I said, "You like the Big Island?" He goes, "I do." I said, "Well, I just got to tell you, I really appreciate all your work over these years." He goes, "Well, thank you." That was it.
Yep.
Nothing. I didn't run up there and give me your autograph. I'm just not a seeker like that. It's like, what am I going to do with somebody's scrap? I'm just not. But to see the guy, have him nod, very friendly. They're all humans, just like us.
Yep.
Just got a little more money.
Dave harassed him at the seafood bar one night when he came in, because he used to stay in Puako too, because he
Okay.
knew. And I won't go into the whole story for privacy purposes, but
Right.
he came in one night and I was down at the other well, and so a friend of ours brought him in, and Dave goes, "Hey Bob, how you doing, Bob?" And I'm like, "Oh geez." And Bob, Dave is unrelenting on, if he wants to like make light of something and have fun, he's going for it.
Dave,
"Hey, how you doing,
yeah.
Bob?" And he's like, "Good." And he gets him his drink, or when he goes, "Hey Bob, what do you think of this bar?" It's a South Seas themed bar. And he's like, "Oh, that's a nice bar." And he goes, "Oh, wouldn't this bar go great in one of your movies, Bob?" And he goes, "Well, not if it took place in DC, right?" And he goes, "Come on, Bob, work with me here. Can't we get this bar in one of your movies?" And he chuckled and laughed and walked off or whatever. And it was funny. And I was mortified at the other end.
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's Dave, right? I can see you wouldn't be mortified now. I'd be like, yeah, that's Dave.
Yeah.
Right. But because you think, oh, it's a celebrity, I can't talk to him like that. And Dave just said, "You're no different than
They
me."
don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
and in reality, he's right. We're all human beings. We all have stories. Hey, real quick about Robert Redford. He's one of the reasons that I ended up being a journalism major, because, well, it wasn't so much him, but Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein wrote All the President's Men about the Watergate break and everything. That's when I read that book, and then he got the movie rights, and he did the movie All the President's Men. And he played Bob Woodward, and so they were like my heroes. I went into journalism, or at least studied it, but never did it. The other movie he did in the early or mid 70s was called Ordinary People. He was the director. He was not in it, but it was Mary Tyler Moore, Donald Sutherland, and a very young Timothy Hutton. Right, if you remember that, and he won the best actor that year. Timothy Hutton did. Great movie, serious movie. It doesn't tickle. There's a lot of tragedy and stuff in the movie, but it's great. And I didn't, it's like, oh, directed by Robert Redford. I didn't know he was so far at the end of his career that he started directing. Right, so. Anyways, we'll talk more about our celebrity stories. We've hit the hour point almost on the nose. So, Scott, we're going to come back and talk more about Hawaii and some of our experiences here in the future.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Hey, good to have you on. And where can people find you? Since Scott is a mega realtor on the island of Oahu, he's got a great
on the web at hiestates.com, and then on my YouTube channel, I've got over 500 videos at Scott Startsman, but they're all real estate related. So,
yeah, if you want to learn about real estate, yeah, he talks about Oahu real estate, but you also, regardless of where you are on the islands, you're talking about real estate, you're going to learn things that pertain to each island. So appreciate your hard work in real estate and appreciate your friendship. And thanks for coming on. Next week, we'll have Robert Redford and Dave from the Seafood Bar. and Neil Young singing in the background,
Yeah.
All right.
Well, good to catch up. Thanks for having me.
You take care.
You too.
That's it.
Did you hit end record? Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, wait, still going.
Yeah, you have to hit it twice.
Why is it